Welcome and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Zuleyha Keskin. I lecture in Islamic spirituality, and I have here Dr. Omer Atilla Ergi, who's lectures in Islamic theology, but he's also an expert in physics. So I have a question for you today. I've been hearing about Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is an astrophysicist, and he seems to have an argument, and I wanted to get your view on that. And his argument is that if God existed, he can't be both all-powerful and all-good. And he gives the example of the tsunami, one of the tsunamis that took place, and he says if if God was all-powerful, he could have stopped the tsunami.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on this?
Okay. Neil deGrasse Tyson is a very famous astrophysicist. He is like a celebrity now. There's a lot of videos on him. And it seems like this argument, Dr. Zuleyha, is a common argument by atheists. They all use it. I heard Richard Dawkins, the famous atheist, use it as well. It goes all the way back to atheist philosophers as well. Now, maybe from the first perspective that we should look at it is, I believe this argument is paradoxical for atheists in particular. Because it is like saying, a non-existent being either having power or having, compassion. And they are sort of debating that, whereas, from an atheistic perspective, they don't believe in God anyway. So they are actually, they're trying to accuse God of being non-compassionate, whereas they're saying God doesn't exist. So there is a paradox there. Maybe if a person believed in God, they may have that, right to ask the question, why doesn't God stop all this evil and suffering on earth? And Neil deGrasse Tyson gives the example of the Indian Ocean tsunami. And I looked at the Indian Ocean tsunami. According to records, it says 227,000 people lost their lives in that tsunami.
When was that?
It's during the 2000s.
Okay.
You might remember it happened in Thailand, Indonesia,
yes.
the big tsunami.
Yes.
And 200,000 is a big number, of course, people losing their lives, including women, children, innocent people, you might say. But the thing is this, every week, 1.2 million people die. Every week on Earth. That's like 120 people every minute. As we speak now, 120 people have already died. So does that mean God is not all good? Because people are dying. And we would need to think about the alternative. What would happen if nobody died or no living being on Earth died? Well, what is the alternative?
We should think about that.
We would have, wouldn't we? Think about your great-great-great-great-grandfather, in the grand old age of 575 or something. He's lying down in the corner of your home, can't even stand up, can't even go to the bathroom himself. He's just skin and bones. The quality of life is almost zero. Now, imagine living like that.
I have to say, I know people who are very old. They're basically waiting for death for the reasons that you mentioned. It becomes a blessing that they die because, they've lived their life. And they, as you said, they've just got so many limitations that they're waiting for death. But I guess here the sticking point they might have is how the death takes place. So there's death and then there's death. Maybe that's what they're highlighting.
Yeah, maybe not hell, more than hell. Maybe they are pointing out that there are young people there. People who have not really lived a full life, as they would put it, full life. But I also looked into that too. When you think about it, an average human being, let us say we live about 75 years. I'm just averaging it globally. 25 years of that we sleep.
Wow.
You have 50 years left. And if you take out the work hours, the education you have to go through, your baby times, child times, you don't even remember anything about the world. And the time after you get to a certain age, you don't have enjoy life anymore anyway. So if you take all of these out, they did the math, there's the statistics there. An average human being takes about 6 months of pleasure out of life. 6 months. So when we say full life, what are we talking about really when you think about it? There is a thing, another calculation that, if you look at the life of the universe, 13.8 billion years, that's a big number from our perspective.
Yeah.
And if you squeeze the life of the universe into 24 hours, you squeeze the life of the universe, human life is 0.3 seconds. Within 24 hours.
Okay.
0.3 seconds.
Relatively speaking.
Relative. That's how short it is. Or if you put it into a distance, the 13.8 billion years, it's 14 kilometers, let us say, the distance.
Yeah.
Human life is 7 millimeters within that. 7 millimeters. What is a full life then? We have to think about it. This is a place, temporal. Earth is temporal for us, or this life is temporal for us. We enter from one side, we live from the other side. So from an Islamic theological perspective, this is not the main aim, life here. Nobody truly 100% has a full life here anyway.
Okay.
We are just fleeting. The main objective from our point of view to attain that eternal life. Otherwise, like I said before, we cannot say death is an evil thing, bad thing. In reality, it is a blessing, like you mentioned it as well. It is a blessing because, just when you think about the animals on Earth, if they could not die, what would happen to the ecological balance on Earth? Billions and billions of animals, population growth, Earth will become unlivable. That is a reality. Everything is balanced on Earth, and it happens just the way it should happen. So within this, maybe we should say, it's like a movie. Within this movie, yes, some people are going to have less life, some people are going to have longer life, but at the end of the day, we all die. It's a reality that we cannot escape. So we cannot say death is bad, unless if we say there is no life after death. It all happens here on Earth, then you can argue, is this justice? Is
true.
God just? Is he compassionate? While, one person lives till about 12 years old, the other one lives till 90, then you would say, is this compassionate? Is this just? But if it was all about this earth, if there is an eternal life, then this is very insignificant. Maybe that's the way we should approach it. But atheists have these arguments they put forward.
There's a lot of premises, isn't there? I guess with their thing, with that approach, again, assuming that this is it, this is the only thing that exists. That's why it appears evil, like this life. Whereas, as you said, if you believe in the hereafter, then this is only part of something that's bigger for everyone, whether you die when you're 5, 10, 70, 90.
Everything changes then. The whole concept changes. Otherwise, if you look at it from an atheistic perspective, like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, is it fair that 200,000 people died there? That means God is not all good. Hasha, we cannot make a claim like that. Moreover, from an atheistic perspective, according to their view, it's a disaster. It is caused by a tsunami, not by God. That's their perspective. Then why are you blaming God for a natural occurrence? So, as I said, first you have to accept that there is God. Then we can question these things and talk about them. And as I said, this life is temporal. It is fleeting. And from an atheistic view, life has no justice at all then. There are many people living in, comfort, in billions of dollars, and there are people suffering. They cannot even find a loaf of bread sometimes. There are people like that. There are people whose lives are cut short by disasters, illnesses. There are other people living till the grand old age of 100 maybe. So if you look at it from that perspective, then there is no justice at all. Then justice must be somewhere else. People commit big crimes. The dictators sometimes kill millions of people, innocent people. Aren't they going to be held accountable? If they are not, then that is problematic when you think about it. But when you have that notion of the day of judgment, where everyone will be held accountable and God is all just, all compassionate, the whole picture changes. You know, you have this relief inside.
Yeah.
You feel more comfortable.
Absolutely. Because also, even the understanding of suffering is different. You know, from an Islamic perspective, we don't see suffering as evil. We see it as a potential of spiritual growth. Like there's a hadith of our Prophet. They asked our Prophet ﷺ, who suffers the most? And he said, the prophets.
Yes.
They asked, then who? They said, and he said, those closest to Allah. Then who? Then those who closest to Allah. So here you get this, you know, it's a paradigm shift. Suffering isn't about Allah hates you or God doesn't love you, but it's like if he loves you, he's going to test you, and this is an opportunity for spiritual growth or rewards in the hereafter.
Yes.
So we have a completely different understanding.
There's a wisdom there.
There's wisdom.
There is a famous saying amongst Islamic theologians. They say that God acts through his hikmah in this universe. Hikmah is wisdom, as you know, not through his kudra, which is power. So his power doesn't prevail openly. Because he has created everything in this universe through causality. Everything happens because of cause and effect. There is a chain of causality there. And God acts this way. You know, we don't say, when it rains, for example, we say automatically that there must be clouds up there, rain clouds. For it to rain, God creates the clouds and then it rains. Is it possible for God to make it rain without clouds? Of course it is. But he put everything through causality because, as we said before, we are going through a test in this world. So causality, the chain of causality is not broken. But then how could we, like when the atheists ask, how could we prove that there is a God? Because they say there's no evidence. And some of them come up with really childish arguments. And I see some of them are very famous people. Like I saw a few days ago a video of Richard Dawkins. He's very famous, you know, he's a scientist, but he goes, I don't believe in unicorns either, you know, when they ask him, do you believe in? How do you compare unicorns to God? Who does believe in unicorns? You know, or is there people who, you know, form a society, you know, an institution and call it non-believers in unicorns? Is there such a thing? Do people write books about, you know, unicorns doesn't exist?
It's actually quite offensive the way it's put, isn't it?
It's
a very childish, very flawed argument.
Yeah, because there are billions of people who believe in God. In fact, majority of the world believes in God, some sort of a powerful being. But they don't look for that designer. They don't look for that, you know, the creator. And they say, where's the scientific evidence? Some things don't require scientific evidence. That's what they don't realize. Because you are seeing the effect there. And cause needs to be there. You know, when we look at the universe is a contingent place. If it's contingent, then you need a being who is necessarily existent. Because if you look for a cause for the universe, which is also contingent, then you are going to be looking for another cause, another cause. Then we cannot go into infinite regress.
Right.
You know, all the way. Keeps going, causality. We have to stop somewhere and accept that there is a being who causes everything but does not need to be caused itself. And this being cannot be contingent. So the universe is contingent. It depends on other factors to exist. And maybe I can give one example in regards to this, because analogies help people understand concepts much better. And I would advise, you know, Neil deGrasse Tyson and also Richard Dawkins to take this example. Now, let us say we are sitting in a theater.
Okay.
There are 100 or 200 people, in the audience. We have the stage in front of us. And the curtains are closed. When the curtains open, we see this... where the thing that, the artist use for painting, canvas.
Canvas,
Canvas on stage.
That's right.
Next to the canvas, there's this palette, with different paints in it.
Yeah.
And we are watching as audience, and there's another curtains behind the palette or behind the canvas. And we see a paintbrush jutting out of the curtains,
Right.
coming out of the curtains, and it suddenly starts dipping into various paints and starts painting this beautiful, picture on the canvas, something like a Mona Lisa, or something from Rembrandt. Very unbelievable painting, and we are watching this happening.
That's right.
But we don't see the end of the brush. It's behind the curtain. Who is holding it, or if someone is holding it or not, we don't know. Now, from people like Richard Dawkins' perspective, there is no one behind the curtain. No one is holding that brush. The brush is just in the mid-air and making all those pictures and paintings, that beautiful, magnificent paintings. Does that make sense? Would anyone in that audience, out of 100, 200 people, say there's no one behind the curtain? All of us would assume that there must be a great artist behind that curtain, holding that brush and making that painting. We see these paintings everywhere in the universe, in nature, don't we see it everywhere?
It's a good point, and I think sometimes we overcomplicate it when, as you said, these arguments are very simple. And Said Nursi, 20th century scholar, he makes these simple analogies as well. It goes, if there's a book, there has to be an author. If there's a needle, there has to be someone who's crafted it. Like even with this pen, none of us would say that it's came from nowhere. We know that it's been designed and it's been put together by somebody, but yet, as you said, with this whole universe, which is functioning immaculately, for us to say it just happened, it sounds so ridiculous when you think of it that way, doesn't it?
It does. But they come up with all these counter arguments. Like Richard Dawkins wrote a book called, The Blind Watchmaker. The reason he named that book with that title, about 150 years ago, there was a man called William Paley, English, as I remember, he was a scholar in theologian, and he had this argument. It was based on intelligent design, complexity. He says, if you're walking in the park and you come across a piece of stone on the ground, you might, say it might have randomly fell from a high hill and rolled down here. But he says, if you come across a watch, you can't make the similar argument for randomness, he says, because watch is a very complex mechanism, device. It has all these gears and functioning, parts in it.
Right.
You would have to assume that it was designed by an intelligent agent. So he uses that for nature, And Richard Dawkins, 150 years later, he writes a book and says, The Blind Watchmaker. And he's accepting that there is a watchmaker. But it says blind, and he is sort of assigning it to nature, because nature is blind, not intelligent. This doesn't work in reality. And
so in the argument, he's saying that the watch can be made by a blind person? Is that
nature. He's talking about nature, because watch resembles nature, the complexity. We have complexity in nature. So
he's saying it's still possible?
Yeah. Nature is the designer. But it is a thing, he says it's the blind watchmaker, blind chances, that's what it is, randomness, It does not make sense. The reason for this is, think about an eye, human eye, that can see. Now, for an eye to be designed, whoever designed it, if you're saying nature, blind nature, it had to have knowledge of the concept of seeing. Like, why do we make watches? To tell the time, to keep the time, don't we? Now, the watchmaker has knowledge of the concept of time prior to making a watch, because watches are designed according to that. So nature had to have knowledge of seeing before an eye could be designed. It is not just random process. First there's a dot there which detects light, and then eventually it keeps on getting better, keeps on getting better. There's a direction, there's a purpose there. And then you have this, human eye, like the most perfect cameras. So it just doesn't make sense. Everywhere we look, we see that design. We see that the teleological argument, there's purpose. It's not just design, there's purpose too. Everything has a purpose. Every animal on earth has a purpose. Every plant on earth has a purpose. They help, establish that ecological balance. Except for humans. Isn't that interesting?
Except for humans.
Isn't it? Human beings, from this planet's perspective, ecological perspective, we have no function. We do not help ecology, we do not help the earth in any way.
Yeah.
We don't contribute, we take. All the rest of the animals, the plant life as well, they contribute, for the earth. And they have a higher purpose, maybe we should say. Even a bee,
That's true.
It has a very higher purpose. It's not just to make honey and survive, but it has a higher purpose. It pollinates the flowers and so on. So they establish the ecological balance. But human beings, we take, we give nothing back.
So that shows that our purpose is more beyond physical.
That's a perfect thing. So our purpose is nothing to do with establishing ecological balance on Earth. It's way beyond that, because we seem to be like the kings and queens of the Earth. We have control over everything. We dominate the Earth.
Yeah. And we are the vicegerents. We are the caliphs on Earth. So even that's mentioned in the Quran. So it shows that we have a higher responsibility.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
So we do have a higher purpose. Otherwise, if we think of human beings just as heap of molecules, no different to the rest of the animals, it doesn't make sense. Then why has nature given us these unique qualities to ruin itself? It doesn't make sense. So there must be other purpose for us in this world. And I believe that's much higher purpose. As you said, the Quran mentions that very clearly, our purpose. It's to recognize God, acknowledge God, worship God.
Yeah. Looking at Neil deGrasse Tyson's argument, and just based on our conversation, it's like they're trying to make sense of a scenario, let's say tsunami, without understanding the bigger picture, without understanding the premises. And that's why I think you started with the point of, they don't even believe in God. So how can you question something that you don't even believe in?
Yes.
So it's flawed from the beginning.
Right from the beginning. It's paradoxical. You're questioning a non-existent being from their perspective of being incompassionate. It just doesn't make sense. Like you said, it is flawed. Their argument is flawed. So in order to question these things, first you have to accept that there is a creator. In reality, there is a creator. When these people say there is no God, even with that argument, they are accepting that there is God without realizing.
How's that?
Because why would you deny or reject something that doesn't exist anyway? Philosophically, it's not valid. If I came to you, I'll be humorous of it. If I came to you and say, Trapalakostis doesn't exist, you would laugh at me, because there's no such a thing. I just made it up. Why would I make up something and then deny it? It doesn't make sense. So, rejecting God, denying God is not actually saying God doesn't exist. It is actually saying God exists, but I don't accept. That's what it actually means,
And I think another element of this, I would say that we're projecting. It's almost like we're not being humble about it as well. Projecting in the sense that we think, if I was God, if I was powerful, and if I had, I would be good like this, or I would have mercy. So since God's not doing that, then therefore he doesn't exist. It's negating and giving ourselves, we're not humble about it, if you understand what I mean.
No, I understand.
Because, it's like saying he's doing it wrong, astaghfirullah, which is a problem in itself as well, because I guess we should be thinking really, as a human being, I have limitations. I can't, physical especially, I can't even do this, and this. I can't even fly. I can't even, stay for 1 minute without air or something. But yet here I am trying to determine how the universe should be run. It's like someone coming into a big company and saying, you've got it all wrong. The manager doesn't exist. This is how you should do it. When they have no idea, no capacity.
Exactly. I think that's a really good point, because that was in the back of my mind as well. It's a good thing you reminded me of that. It is paradoxical. You know, what they're doing, it is paradoxical, because they're trying to standardize God according to their own understanding.
Exactly.
Whereas God always existed. How long did humanity exist for? You know, the entire human, societies. If you look at it, they say about 300,000 years. That's what they give Homo sapiens, 300,000 years. And again, if you compare it to the life of the universe, it is like 11:59 p.m. We are in the last minute of the life of the universe. And we're trying to, standardize God. We're saying God should be like this. Who are we? Who are we to assign standards for God? It is He who created us out of nothing, or for us, a drop of liquid. That's who we are. So He is the creator. He is the designer. He is the governor. And then you're questioning how He should be. But and another thing, where does this compassion come from? I would say with
God's compassion, do you mean?
That compassion we have. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he says he thinks that's incompassionate to allow tsunamis, for example. But when he's making that argument, he's doing that through his own compassion. As a humanly compassion, mercy, isn't it? But where does it come from? It originates in the Creator. So our compassion is very, very limited compared to His. It is like a piece of glass on the ground, which reflects the sun's light. When the sun shines, we see a little tiny sun within a glass, because they're transparent objects. And then the little glass, claiming that it has more light than the sun. So,
when you put it that way, we're acting like that broken glass is shimmering some light, saying I'm more bright than the sun. And that's a very good analogy, because in a hadith our Prophet explains how Allah has 100 parts mercy, and He uses 1 part for this earth. And because of that because of that compassion, you see the compassion of animals towards their offsprings, and humans towards their children, just from that 1%. And when you look around, there's a lot of, there's things that go wrong, but there's a lot of compassion that's being manifested.
Things have to go wrong, It's quite normal, because God Almighty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has given us free will. Human beings have free will. And when you have that tool, it's a very, important tool, significant tool, because you're able to make choices freely. But when you have that tool, it means you have the ability to do bad as well. And if you look at the universe, or Earth, we should say, 99% of the evil suffering on Earth is caused by humans. It's a reality, the wars, the pain we inflict on others.
The famine we cause.
Or even the pain we inflict on animals. Pain and suffering. So it is mainly caused by human beings, and that's because of free will. But I always ask this question, philosophical question, someone who's concerned about this doesn't want any of this happening. If God said to them, look, I can stop it instantly. Well, no animals will suffer, no other humans will suffer, but I need to remove your free will. I need to cancel your free will. Would we accept it? We should think about it. No human being would accept that. We want free will.
We want to be empowered. We want to be able to make decisions.
Yes.
And again, I guess, then they might say, well, we don't want evil, but again, but without the hereafter, I always say this, without belief in the hereafter, it's like an unfinished story, this life.
It is.
It's like reading a novel halfway and trying to make sense of it. You can't, because it doesn't end when you die. And when the minute you realize that, you can look at this world and think, okay, things make more sense. Because if someone has died unjustly, if that means they can have eternal bliss, Who wouldn't want that? I always think of this scenario. Imagine I was unjustly murdered in the afterlife. If Allah says to me, subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look, because you were unjustly killed, I'm going to put you in paradise. But if you want, I can take you back on earth and not have you murdered. What would you prefer? I think at that point I would say, if I'm going for eternal heaven,
life.
I'm happy. That's fine. Leave it as is. And I think that's where we don't realize, or we don't think about the implications or how people are going to be rewarded for the challenges that they've been through.
Yeah. Maybe we could say this. We can have another podcast specifically on the topic of life after death. What is the evidence for it, if you like, in the future? But I'll give you one example of one of the evidences for life after death. As I mentioned before, there is injustice on earth. Justice cannot be ever, maybe fulfilled on earth. It's
Absolute
not
justice, yeah.
Absolutely, it's not possible. But another thing is, if you look at all the things on earth, all living things, including human beings, whatever they need to survive or whatever needs they have, it is given to them in some way. Their feelings, are emotions or physical feelings, are sort of always satisfied through some ways. And to cite examples, whatever God created on earth, let us say on earth only, it has a counterpart. Like for example, we have ears. There's light, there's sound. Because sound and ears match together. It's always match. There is light. We have eyes. It's always matching. So whatever there is a need, it also has its counterpart as well. But there are some things that we have, we cannot find their counterparts on earth. We don't want to get old. We don't want to get sick. We don't want to be poor. We want eternity. We want to live always. None of these things exist on earth. Then I say to myself, if God did not want to give, why did he give the feeling of want? But we have this feeling of want. That means he will give what we want, but it's just not here in this world. We have to realize that there must be something beyond. We are not just made up of, amino acids, proteins, molecules. You cannot reduce human beings to matter. It does not make sense to me.
No, that's a very good point. And maybe that's another podcast in the making. So let us know in the comments if you think that's a good podcast to have. Thank you so much for your time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-powerful and the all-good. We have come to that conclusion.
Yes, it's great to be here.
Thank you.